evening and welcome to another edition of our Government at Work program. It's another wonderful Thursday evening here on the island of Nevis, and it's a time when we all look forward to another night of information as it pertains to the good governance of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration. It is also a program designed to educate all citizens and residents of Nevis, especially those living in the diaspora. It is important that you're kept abreast of the many positive developments that are taking place here on the island of Nevis. We are well aware, of course, that there are some unpatriotic citizens who, for one reason or the other, prefers to indulge in fake narratives. But on this program, we make every effort to ask the right questions and get the truthful answers that will give you a true reflection as to what's happening on the island of Nevis. We therefore look forward each week to go deep into discussions with ministers of government, advisors, permanent secretaries, department heads, as well as top officials from the various statutory corporations here on the island of Nevis. This program, I remind you, is broadcast live on VON Radio every Thursday evening from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Then we broadcast on Nevis Television on Sunday evenings from 8:30 p.m. It's a program brought to you by the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and hosted by yours truly, Keith Scarborough. This and other Government at Work programs, as well as our Bird's Eye View programs, can also be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and NTV webpage. We shall take a short break, and when I return, I shall introduce my guest for this evening's program to you. So stay locked down to the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio 860 AM.
So rise, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land.
Welcome back. Folks, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Human Resource, my good friend, Mr. Kevin Scooby Barrett. Mr. Barrett, good evening and welcome once again to our Government at Work program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Scarborough. And it's another night that I'm spending with you. We have had some good discussions in our previous go around, and I'm hoping that tonight we would have something similar. I hope that what I would share tonight and the questions you would ask would educate those individuals who are listening to us, and by the end of tonight they would be better educated in the things that surround human resources. And so it's really a delight for me to be here once again to impart some of what I know persons are interested in and want to know regarding the human resource ministry in the Nevis Island Administration. So thank you for having me once again, King.
It's a pleasure as always, Mr. Barrett. I am hoping that we have enough time to get through.
And that is something that always happens, that we run out of time because
exactly.
I think we're getting better at it though.
Yes, we are.
I think we're getting better at it. We're going to keep it tight.
Yes.
All right.
I want to start by focusing your attention now on the responsibilities of the Human Resource Department, because many persons are unaware of the very important role that the unit plays. So before I get into my line of questioning, shed some light for us on the role of the department for our listeners and viewers to this program.
Yeah, King, indeed. But I want you to allow me just a couple of minutes to do something. Sure. And I really want to give, as we say locally, colloquially, a big up. I want to give a big up to my staff.
Right.
I believe that I have, and not to make my colleagues in the NIA feel anywhere, but I believe I have the best staff.
You believe I have the best?
I believe I have the best staff. The ladies at Human Resources, they work tremendously hard. And I am delighted to say that I wake up at mornings and want to go to work.
Oh, that's good.
I wake up at mornings and want to go to work because
serious inspiration.
Yes, I go into an environment where individuals take their jobs very seriously, and I see that day after day that these ladies, they know what to do, they know how to do, they know how to get along, they know how to be professional, and they are an absolute gem of a group of ladies to be working with. I want to single them out.
Sure.
So allow me. Miss Estisa Maynard. King, I don't think I have ever worked with a lady who is as thorough as Miss Maynard. I mean, when Miss Maynard put a document together, she is top of her class. It has been a delight. I've been there about maybe a year and about 3 months now. And I have seen her work. And I'm telling you, thorough as ever.
That's good.
She works along with Miss George, Miss Aparicia George. I don't think there anybody is in the world by the name of Aparicia. But we call her Reese.
I didn't know that was her name, actually.
All right. But let me tell you, Miss George too is a beautiful soul. She makes me laugh, but apart from that, she makes my letters sound like I know what I'm saying.
Okay, that's good.
So I will give her something and she will fix it up.
Okay, great.
And
great.
that is, I mean, she made me sound like I'm intelligent.
Okay.
And I really appreciate that. So Miss George, thank you so much. And then I go to Mrs. Gill. Mrs. Gill is a stickler for details.
Yep.
I don't think I've come across an individual who puts proposals together as tight as Mrs. Gill.
Okay.
Mrs. Shanola Gill, I tell you, when I read the proposals that she brings that I have to pass on to the NIA, I can't even find a comma to put in.
Okay.
She is good. She makes some proposals that, I mean, I'm sure when the cabinet see those proposals, they just endorse them and send them back. But she's good. I really appreciate the effort that she puts into, and she has her training team. She has a support there, Miss Griffin, Miss Carissa Griffin.
Yes.
Now, if you want a document to be done electronically, give it to Miss Griffin.
She knows how to do
I
it.
tell you, I think I have the best staff. Forgive me. And then I have Mrs. Shelley Liebert. When it comes to anything scholarship, financial assistance and all of these things, listen, when she get on the phone, when you call and you want information or you sit down in front of her, I don't think you could hear a more patient voice like Mrs. Liebert. And she spells out everything, even if you don't have the document in front of you. By just what she explains, you could see it as clear as day. I mean, it's almost as if what she's saying, the paper is right in front of you. But I'm telling you, King, I really want to give a big up, as I said earlier, and a great thank you to the staff. They make my work easy.
Okay, well, since you and I get along so good, you want to exchange stuff?
King, no, you want to go down a road that I'm not willing to give up. I'm not willing to.
Okay.
You and I are very good friends,
Okay.
But I tell you, I love my staff. And when I tell you, when I wake up in the morning, I want to go to work.
Okay.
And they have, and let me tell you something else.
Done right there.
I have given up on trying something. HR is a place that I think when you want to see a standard, they exemplify what
the workplace should
the workplace should look like. King, I have given up on trying something. I like to go to work early. And so when I got to the department, I realized I reached there early, and I realized that workers are there. And I reached before 8 o'clock.
That's good. That's
So
the way.
I say, you know, let me see. My king at 7:31 time, you know.
And they beat you still.
You understand?
Oh, that's a good department.
When I step in, Miss Maynard, my very good friend, listen, she make me look good. You know what? But when I stepped in, I think I had them. You know what Miss Maynard said? Try harder. Listen, that was, and so I said, you know, ladies, you know, I give up. I give up. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out. I really appreciate them, and we work well together. They get along well with each other, and I like that. But you asked a question, King. So let me get into the question now. Responsibility of HR. Now, any HR, and I could speak of what we do, is that we take care of the entire employee experience. And when I say that, the Ministry of Human Resources, so we take care of the employee from the time that they, in fact, make an application up to doing interviews. Once we employ them, we see that process through, and we take care, or we follow them up to retirement.
Up to retirement.
So we see the
start
whole
to
gamut
finish.
from start to finish, right? From start to finish. So in a nutshell, that is what it is. But it goes even a little bit deeper than that when it comes to things that we do. For example, we do recruitment. When I say recruitment, we look at the applications, right? Yeah, and even before that, there are vacancies and there are, you know, jobs out there, so you have to advertise.
Yes.
So we do some of that as well. We get the information from the various ministries and departments and all of that, and if they ask us to, you know, do the advertisement for them, we handle that. When it comes to those persons who make the cut for the interviews, HR does that as well. Once you are now employed, we are to make sure that your records are well kept, they are up to date, that they are in a safe place, and if there is training to be had, we ensure that there is some training, because you have to keep upskilling your workforce. So HR does a lot of that as well. And while we are talking about training, we also look at your performance. So we are heavily involved in performance appraisals,
Right.
and we also look at whether there are weak points or gaps that need to be filled. HR also look at the entire system, see what needs to if there are areas that need to, let's say, be revamped. We could come up with proposals. We look at trends. We look at what is going to be useful for the workforce to make it more efficient. And we put those things forward to cabinet. And so that is why you would see from time to time, or hear from time to time, that there's a training or there's a consultant coming in and talking to heads of departments and all of these things. So yes, we do a lot of what helps employees to be more efficient, right? And when we are talking about efficiency, we are not just talking about efficiency as an individual. We talk about efficiency as a unit as well. So there are a lot of things that HR is involved in when it comes to how the entire workforce works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In a nutshell.
Yes, it's a big nutshell. That is. It's a big nutshell. That is. All right, I'll get back into some of that a little later down. But
I imagine.
Yes.
I imagine.
I'm going to ask you this. You recently held a meeting with all permanent secretaries and other heads of department here on the island of Nevis. Could you give us an update on the purpose of that meeting and some of the discussions that went on?
Absolutely. So about 2 weeks ago, 2 Fridays ago, the Ministry of Human Resources, they would have extended an invitation to the permanent secretaries and the assistant permanent secretaries to come to a meeting. And we had two objectives in that meeting. One is we have just put together a recruitment policy, and we wanted to expose the permanent secretaries and the assistant secretaries to that document. That was something, again, put together by Mrs. Gill and the training team. But Mrs. Gill, as I said, listen, King, when I say she writes tight proposals, right, that I don't think Cabinet have a difficulty in ratifying. So she would have looked into what would normally happen, as I said, when it comes to recruitment. Put a document together, had it ratified by Cabinet, and now we expose the permanent secretaries and the assistant permanent secretaries to that document. So we went through that. It is based a lot on what the SRNO says, but how Mrs. Gill set that out is that it helps you to follow the guidelines, the trail of what happens first, what will happen next, and things like that. So we went through that. That was one. Secondly, it was somewhat of a refresher and familiarization for the permanent secretaries and the assistant secretaries with aspects of the SRNOs. And that is something that I found when we were over that was very useful, because Mr. Scarborough, sometimes we think that we know, and sometimes we have a superficial understanding of certain things. But then when you sit in a group and sit in a room and you go through word for word, item by item, what these statutory rules and orders mean, you realize that, listen, I have a better understanding of what it is now. So that was one of the reasons why we met, and it was really well received. The intention is to have similar sessions with them as the year progresses, because listen, this document that we have, there are lots of things in it that we have. And I could speak for myself because I'm learning even more now, right? We had just a superficial view and a superficial understanding of what was written here. I think the permanent secretaries really appreciated the session, and we are looking forward to doing some more. It makes us better at what we do, and it also helps the permanent secretaries to explain to their heads of departments and the other persons under them, what applies to particular situations.
Right, they could indulge in the trainer.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Now, I want to move now to the area of scholarship, because this time of year, several scholarships are up for grabs, and we shall talk about them a little later. But it is my understanding that the deadline for applications and financial assistance as it relates to government scholarships ends on March 31st. Give us an idea of what that assistance package is consist of and who qualifies for that assistance.
Okay, you're quite right with we are now in that period where we are accepting applications for financial assistance. We also at a time where our allied countries and agencies, universities, they send information to us regarding scholarships and things like that. But what I would like to focus on tonight, yes, we're going to talk about the scholarships, but the financial assistance that the NIA gives, that is a tremendous help, King. It is a tremendous help, and it is not only a tremendous help, but the thinking behind it. I remember very recently I had a conversation with Premier Brantley, And he and I, we were discussing the financial assistance, and what we discussed was the number of individuals who would have benefited. And what he said to me, he said something to me that, well, I kind of had it at the back of my mind, but to hear it coming from him, I recognize what he would like to see when it comes to the financial assistance. He said to me, and we are kind of schoolmates, right? I'm just a year older than him. I'm a senior. But he said, Scooby, he calls me that, right? Especially when we are in, one-on-one,
right.
Right? I know at times if we are, in a more professional setting, you say P.S. Barrett.
Yes.
But, he was sitting and said, but Scooby, the thing about the financial assistance is we would like to see each household with a college or university educated individual. So we would like that assistance to go around or spread around as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I know some persons would say, well, they don't give assistance for masters. That is not entirely true. But the first objective is to see how many individuals could benefit from the financial assistance that the NIA provides, right? And so they are looking to help persons to at least with that first degree. And it has been working. It has been working and it has been helping. And individuals, we have an electronic copy of it, we have the hard copy of it, and you are asking, well, how it works, and it is open to everybody, right? However, the farther you are away from retirement, the better your chances. Okay? Also, if what you are looking to study falls within the priority areas of the government, that is also a plus for you as well. All right? Once upon a time, the financial assistance only used to be directed at persons who are going physically going to university. Now there's an online component. There is help for online learning as well, right? At this point, it is $5,000 US per year if you go off onto campus, and it is $1,000 US per year if you're doing online studies and you're localized. Yeah, but most persons would think of the financial assistance as, just that, people going off or people doing online. But I think there is a component of it that we miss, King. And that is locally. I don't know how many persons know that financial assistance is also given to persons who go to CFPC.
That's why you're here, Mr. Barrett.
Okay,
give them
good.
the information.
Right. Because persons who are going into teaching and nursing are subsidized, are given the financial assistance from the NIA as well. I know, sometimes we miss the local component of some of the help that we get, and we look that, somebody want to go to the United States or to the United Kingdom or, farther afield. As for the financial assistance. But there's a third component of that, in that if students coming out of high school, GSS or CSS, and they are going on to what we call the sixth form. Our sixth form on Nevis, the Nevis sixth form, sometimes do not offer some courses that our students coming out of high school want to do. But if they register on St. Kitts, let's say CFPC, they're offering the courses down there, those students could also apply for some assistance that they get in both passes. Now, coming out of the Ministry of Education, King, that is a significant amount of money.
Coming out of your budget.
Yeah, I'm saying, well, coming out of NIA's budget.
Yeah, that.
But I mean, but I'm saying, persons probably would not factor that in terms of financial assistance. But let me tell you, when the bills come from the ferries, you know, for the boat passes, it's a significant amount, right? And so I think the government coming on board with things like that, you know, it is not only persons who are going off to study, it's not persons who are online, but if you go to CFBC and you're going into teaching and nursing, there is some assistance there as well. And if you're a student who is going to do something that is not offered at our Nevis 6 farm, and you're going to get it done at CFBC, you get some assistance as well.
Okay. How do they go about getting that assistance? Who do they apply to?
Okay, great question. Now, as I said, at HR we have Mrs. Shelley Liebert, and the information that you are seeking, it could be had from, well, two areas. You could either go on the NIA website, click on the link that says Human Resources, click on the icon that says, or the tab that says Forms, and then you would see the financial assistance form. You could fill it out online, or you could physically come into the office and get a form, fill it out, and bring it back. And the process, as I said, is not difficult. And we have had individuals who stay, you know, in remote locations and fill out the form and they email it in, and it's just as good as if you know how the electronic media is now, just as good as if you're sitting in front of somebody.
True.
Yeah. So that is how the process works in terms of the application.
Okay.
Now, after that comes in, I think you mentioned the deadline, March 31st.
Right.
Okay, good. So then all of those applications are gathered. We look at those that fall into the priority areas. Those are the ones that would be considered first. Okay? And once we go through them and all of that, and we prioritize, and most times they are approved. Yeah.
Okay. Now, with regards to that March 31st deadline, what has the response been like thus far?
Oh, listen, I had a call last week from somebody in Trinidad. He's a Nevision, and he's wanting some financial assistance because he's going to, you know, go on to do some studies. And I got his application yesterday. So the word is out, and we are getting some good responses. We are getting some good responses.
In addition to these scholarships that the NIA offers on an annual basis, and like you mentioned earlier, there are several other scholarships that is being offered by friendly countries around the world. How many of those are available as you speak, and which countries are offering those scholarships?
Okay, good. We have the Taiwan ICDF. Yes, the Taiwan ICDF scholarship that is open. So that's Taiwan. Taiwan also offers the MOFA scholarship that is open as well. The NIA has a memorandum of understanding with a university by the name of Edinburgh Napier University. That one is open as well. Monroe College in New York. The NIA also have a memorandum of understanding in terms of matching scholarships. The university will give some, NIA will give some, and so that is ongoing. That's from Monroe. We have the Turkey scholarship that is open. The Cuban scholarship is open. University of the Virgin Islands, that scholarship is open as well. And as I said, the information. If I go through everything here, King, we don't get to ask the next question. So, what I would encourage folks to do with all that I've said, scholarships from Taiwan, from Edinburgh, Napier University, from Monroe College, from Turkey, from Cuba, from the University of the Virgin Islands, the University of Medicine and Health Sciences of Windsor University. Please call Mrs. Liebert at Human Resources, and she would give you all the pertinent details, what is available, and all of those things. Because, as I said, some of these countries, they don't just send one scholarship. They are areas that you could probably choose from, and I can't go through all of them tonight. Understood. But just to let you know that Turkey, Cuba, University of the Virgin Islands, Monroe, Edinburgh, Napier, Taiwan, all of those are open.
Open. Okay. When does registration for those scholarships end, and to whom shall? Well, you mentioned it. Interested persons contact Shelley.
Yes.
But when does the registration end?
The 31st of March.
Oh, that too.
Yes. Because after that, because there has to be some discussion, and you have to look at the applications that come in and those that fall, as I said, in the priority areas. That will take some time to process and all of that. And what we also have to bear in mind is that soon after you have March, April, May, June, and persons are now thinking of going off. If funds are to be dispersed, then we need some lead time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that is why by March, because the application, I don't want to call it season, but period, let me call it. The application period actually opened since December.
Okay.
Right? So it has been going. Yes, it has been ongoing since then.
What is required when one is applying for one of these scholarships?
Okay. I think I have some literature here that I could probably give an indication of what is required. Okay, so applicants, and I'm reading from the document so that I would get it right. Applicants must adhere to the following guidelines to be considered for assistance, right? 1, a cover letter addressed to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Human Resources requesting financial assistance, and the letter should also state the course of study, that's A. B, why you wish to undergo the specified field of education, and how will such training influence your professional development. C, how will your professional development contribute to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And D, the commencement date and expected duration of studies. Right? 2, an original university acceptance letter. University applicants who have not yet received acceptance letters are encouraged still, even you have not, you have sent out the application, but they have not responded yet.
Right.
But we are telling you, don't wait for that. Right? You could still apply, providing there is evidence that you did apply to the university.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
We will also need a breakdown of the course fees from the respective university. A completed financial assistance application form that we just spoke about, birth certificate or certificate of citizenship. You must be a Nevisian either by birth or by citizenship.
Okay.
That when you get the financial assistance. And kindly note that financial assistance awardees will be required to fulfill bonding obligations with the NIA. Because there is, once you would have been given the assistance, you have to sign a bond and all of that, and make sure that you really do give some contribution after you would have been given the assistance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any particular age limit for those applying?
As I suggested earlier, yes. The farther you are away from retirement, but
I remember you said that.
Yes, but there are some scholarships that come with specific specific age range.
Yes.
For example, I know that the bachelors for Cuba, they're looking for persons between age 16 and 25.
That rule me out.
Yes, but I remember Cuba offer a number of scholarships.
Yes,
as the qualification goes up, so does the age range. Because I think once you're going for your masters, they're looking for you to be, I think, between 25 and 35.
Okay.
And if you're going to go for the doctorate, then 35 and over. And most of the other countries would have things like that. But so they are looking for individuals between the age range of 16 and 25. And if you're going to do a master's, and let me explain something about the master's. I mentioned earlier that there's some notion out there that NIA does not give assistance for masters. As I said, that is not entirely true, because if it is in an area, a specialized area, that the government is making a thrust or making some sort of especially in areas like in health, and they are seeing that this is going to be needed and necessary in time to come, or even now, then the extended training, getting the masters, then they would fund something like that. But it must be in a specialized area, and it is not all of the masters that are being pursued by individuals that are supported. It must be in a specialized area and sanctioned by the NIA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Now, the NIA will normally highlight the area of study that they would like to see the applicants take up. Are you in a position to tell us what those areas are?
You see, because I'll tell you, King, from time to time, what would normally happen is that we get, or the NIA will get its input in the areas from the various ministries. Now, if the ministries are looking for particular expertise in particular areas, then they would send that information to human resources, to the NIA, and then out of that would come what we call the priority areas, because each ministry would know which direction that they would like to go and the expertise that they would like to have to meet their objectives. All right?
Yeah.
And so I could go through the current list, as I said, from time to time it would be updated depending on the direction of the ministry. So financial assistance priority areas: teaching, we have English, mathematics, chemistry, physics, tourism, social studies, economics, history, art and design, modern languages, food and nutrition, agriculture science, music, physical education, technical and vocational education, we call it TVET, autism, and special education. On the health, we have nursing, nutritionist, biomedical technician, occupational therapist, audiology, environmental health, surgery, psychiatry, nurse practitioner, and that's a master's program, physician assistant, public health, again that's a master's or PhD level, international health, epidemiology, clinical psychology, pathology, oncology, health, technology. Under the Ministry of Communication, Public Works and Water Services, Physical Planning and Environment, Civil Engineering, Electrical, Mechanical and Environmental Engineering, Water Engineering, Water Technician, Water Management, Pump Technicians, Project Management, Climate Change and Renewable Energy, Urban Planning, Architecture, Geographical Information System, we call that GIS, and land surveying management. In agriculture, we have vet studies, horticulture, shade house technology. On the information and technology, we have IT and the latest thing that on the market now, AI, artificial intelligence. Statistics, we're looking at data cleaning and analysis. And in the category that we call others, we have computer forensic, human resources, forensic accounting, aviation, and that, when we say aviation, we're thinking about airport management and operation, and legal drafting. So for now, that is our priority areas, and if there is anything, dear King, that you might be interested in, you never know.
You don't rule me out with the age group. No, let me ask you this. Does the area of expertise determines how the scholarships are awarded?
To some extent, yes, because once you have the priority areas, right, you see what comes in and what lines up with what you're looking for. All right. So yes, I would say yes.
Okay, great. Folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest this evening is Mr. Kevin Scooby Barrett. We shall take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here regarding the Human Resource Department.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There's something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Mr. Barrett, I want to go into a different area of the human resource at this point, and that is the policy section. Because the policy that you're smiling, the policy that governs the public sector,
I suspected that,
continues to be a topic for much discussion amongst permanent secretaries, directors, and other heads of department, purely because those policies sometimes doesn't allow them to do much in terms of disciplinary measures. What can the Human Resource Department do, if anything, to change those policies to bring them more in line with reality?
Well, first, let me say, King, I don't think that your assertion is entirely accurate. Eh?
I hear you.
So,
I think I will say that.
the thing is, in any governing framework, there must be policies, which govern that system.
Yes.
And these policies must be carried out with due process.
Yes.
All right? And one of the things that no society would want is a rogue organization that is not guided by policy. All right?
Understood.
And so I don't necessarily subscribe to the point that you made that there is little that could be done.
Well, I didn't say it in that way.
Well,
but
but that is the understanding.
Some concerns
Yes.
been raised.
Okay, good. One of the things that as a body that governs individuals, one of the things that you do not want to do is to have emotions guiding decisions. Because once you start to put emotion into the mix of things, and some people get hot-headed and all of that, and they're not guided by anything else but how they feel at the time, we could run ourselves in some problems. And so that is why we have policies with checks and balances that help us to make sure that at the end of the day, when a decision is made and due process is done, that the right or the proper decision is made. Now, if you do not know, one of the things that you have to bear in mind, if you do not know what the proper procedures are, and they are not enforced, then it looks as if, well, there might be little that you could do, but you see, but you don't know what all you could have done, right? So one of the things that has to happen is that individuals have to make themselves au fait and familiar with the necessary or with the policies that are in place to deal with certain things. Once you get to know that, listen, if this happened, I could apply this policy, or I could apply this regulation or guidelines, then you would see a turnaround. But if you don't know, you might think that, well, my hands are tied but if you just read the book, or if you follow the guidelines, you realize, oh, okay, I could get a little write-up. And after that, I could go a little bit deeper and get some, some heavier penalties. But if you don't know, then you might feel like, well, I can't do nothing. No, but that isn't the case. No.
I see you're defending the policy.
I have to.
And you basically, the question was, what can Human Resource Department do? But based on your response, is that there's no need to do anything. It is like you're saying that, and you did say that the person who in charge probably needs to know more about the actual policy.
Absolutely. Because one of the things, King, let me add this. One of the things that you don't want to do as well, I spoke about the emotions, right? But you know that in today's society, when we were in bar school and thing, and the head teacher say, whatever, it is done with, there's no question.
Right.
When you go into the job space and the head of the department or the boss say X and Y is the case, it is done and there are no questions. Now in the society, we have individuals who have legal help. So once you're going to make a decision against an employee, we are no longer in a society that people, as we say, roll over.
Yeah.
They are going to question the veracity and the authority on which you have made this decision.
Yep.
So that is why I'm saying that you have to familiarize yourself with what the guidelines and the policies are and apply those. And once you are aware of those things, then you could execute. But if you don't know, how are you going to execute? And then the individual who you might be bringing up under a particular charge might be more aware of the policy than you. And so when you tell them, well, okay, I'm going to suspend you or I'm going to deduct your pay, and they are going to come back at you, as I said, you know how many lawyers we have around.
I understand.
And who are, just out there waiting for a little something to come to them.
I understand.
And so they will exploit any weakness in a decision. And next thing you know, the NIA has to pay out some money from an emotional response to a situation. So that is why the policy is in place to be followed. Due process.
I understand. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. Let me ask you this question. Any changes to the policy has to be done by a national parliament act or could the human resource?
No, well, once it comes down to legislation, right? It has to be done through the parliament.
Okay.
But once a policy, however, that, for example, very recently, the NIA ratified a vehicle use policy, right? Something like that does not have to go to parliament.
Okay.
We look at what is happening. We put together, human resources put together, and some ministries would have helped with that as well, especially the Ministry of Communications to the Department of Labor, would have helped us to put a vehicle usage, NIA vehicle usage policy together. So that could be ratified by cabinet.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But when it comes down to like legislation as to how individuals will operate in the workspace, then legislation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are some specific areas of concern that continues to create problems in the workplace. And I know that you're quite aware of those concerns, but I want to highlight some of them and ask you, as the Permanent Secretary of Human Resources, to tell our listeners and viewers how those concerns are to be addressed.
I have to make sure I get my SRNOs close to me, so when you start.
Those heads and to those heads of department how they should be addressing those issues. And the first one I want to highlight is the question of sick days. And I'm not talking about sick days with doctor's note, because that is acceptable. I'm talking about persons calling in on a regular basis to say that they cannot come to work because they're sick. How many times are they allowed to do that without a doctor's note before some form of consequences can be applied?
Okay. Can you allow me to read from SRNO's number 11 of 2014 and section 37. And then I think we could go from there. All right, so you're talking about sick days. Yes. It says here, right? Section 37 of SRNO number 11 of 2014, medical leave in excess of 2 consecutive calendar days to require production of a medical certificate. All right? You mentioned that earlier. So that's a given. 1, medical leave, or what we call the doctor paper, on full pay to cover the absence from duty to illness or injury shall be granted. So once you have that document, you would be granted full pay. The subject to provisions of these standing orders without affecting the eligibility for department or vacation leave. So these days would not affect the department leave or your vacation leave, right? An application for sick leave, if it exceeds 2 consecutive working days, shall be supported by a medical certificate issued by a registered medical practitioner practicing in St. Christopher and Nevis. Medical leave, when granted, shall be accounted for in working days, Monday to Friday. All right? So,
no, the days without sick leave.
The days without sick leave.
The doctor's note.
Okay, right.
Is the particular area that I'm concerned about, because that is really the problem comes in.
All right. So,
how many are they allowed? How long before some form of consequences could be?
All right. The SRNOs for that comes in number 38. All right. And as I said, when I come here, King, I like to read because I don't want to make up anything.
I know.
Medical leave granted without, as you are asking, the production of a medical paper, or what we call a sick leave paper, right? The total period of sick leave which may be granted for absence not supported by a medical certificate shall not exceed 10 working days in a year. So you're following me now?
Yes.
All right.
The next question that
except hold on. Except in the case of a teacher, because teachers have a kind of special kind of thing when it comes to vacation days, right? They are quote unquote on vacation whilst the children are out. Mind you, the vacation is really for the children and not for the teachers.
True.
But there is some provision for that. 6 working days for teachers.
For teachers.
Regular workers, 10. all right, during the year. For teachers, 6. All right, so you were asking.
Yes. What happens after that 10 days has been exhausted?
Okay, so the 10 days have been exhausted. Then you go into leave without pay. Or the individual could go into their vacation days. If they don't opt for their vacation days, or let's say they have exhausted all of their vacation days, then leave without pay.
I hope they're listening. Yeah.
Well, you could.
I hope they're listening.
Okay, but you could put that in a song and make up a song with that.
I want them hear it from you. I want them hear it from you. This is serious business.
Yes. Right. Okay.
The same question applies to punctuality. How many times can a person show up late for work before some form of consequences can be applied?
While the SRNO does not necessarily outline or stipulate a number of days that you come late before something, that would fall under misconduct. And under misconduct, let me find that area as well. Just allow me to because as I said, King, when I come here, I do not want to be making up anything. Number 49. I'm going to read something else, but I'm going to read this little section here about misconduct, because again, as I said, I don't necessarily agree when you say that there's very little, people could do very little, because it is right here.
Okay.
Right? It says, in number 9 of 2014, the SRNOs, Statutory Rules and Orders, St. Christopher Nevis, number 49 says, a public officer shall be liable to disciplinary action for any misconduct, including general misconduct to the prejudice of the proper administration of government business or contravention of specific rules and regulations. So, King, I want to now go into misconduct, right? Because remember, we just read that there could be disciplinary measures, right? For anybody who... So, you were asking about...
The lateness.
Lateness. Right. I'm going to read now from number 10 of 2014, Statutory Rules and Orders, number 10 of 2014. On the misconduct of a minor nature. And this means that conduct that does not necessarily warrant dismissal, included in that, and I'm going to go specifically to what you asked, because there are some others, but I want to keep it tight, because I want to cover a lot of ground tonight.
Yes.
You're not going to jam me up. So let me go. Okay. E. On punctuality,
Right.
that you just spoke about.
Right.
There's a little kicker behind that. Without a cause. So if you realize that you have a worker and every morning they're late, every afternoon they're late, they're habitually late, there is no good reason why they're late, and you know that disciplinary measures could be meted out, there's nothing that should stop you from... Let's go to the penalties, right?
Right.
There's nothing that should stop you from talking to the individual about that, because that is usually the first step. The lateness continues. Say, listen, I have to put this in writing. I talked to you already, but so you have done that, and there is no improvement. So you go to the next level, and that could include suspension. That could include reduction in rank. Because let's say you have a nurse and you have days where persons are coming in for dressing and stuff, and the nurse is in charge of that. They're not coming later. I mean, there must be something that you could do.
Of course.
And so you go to the regulations, and you have spoken to the individual, written to the individual, there is no improvement. I mean, there must be something, and it is spelled out here. There will suspension, reduction in rank, suspension of future increments, compulsory retirement. Remember the person sick?
Well, that's the fun.
Right? Yeah, but what I'm saying, people that be sick and don't say anything.
True.
So you realize the person coming late all the time or something, and you say, something, what going on? I'm sending you for evaluation. So the person might have dementia or some kind of early stage of something, and they're just not getting their act together. And you realize that, listen, the type of work that you do, then we might have to recommend that, we put you on compulsory retirement or something. But let's say it's blatant and you're disrespectful with it, and when the boss tell you that, listen, man, we need for you to improve, you lick them some bad word, as we say locally, and you don't care, then we go down to E. Dismissal. Yeah, these things are here. What I would put to you, King, is that we lack enforcement. We lack enforcement.
I'm coming to that now. Because there's a tendency, and you just mentioned it, for persons to say that the lack of enforcement measures is the cause of the repeated offenses sometimes. While that may be true in some cases, I am more inclined to believe that the policies that are in place is the real reason for such behavior, because it doesn't allow, take me back to where I started, those in charge with responsibility to act and do much.
No, King, again, I say I am not agreeing with that assertion, because you see, when you are going to say that the policy don't allow you to do much, how could you say that if you do not know what the policy says?
Well, in this case, we know what the policy says.
Yeah, but look, the policy outline all of these things. One of the things, as I said, we do not want to get ourselves into a rogue nation, right? We are persons, and we know that happens, that there are individuals who have their personal feelings against workers or against colleagues and stuff like that.
That's true.
And we do not want for persons to be terrorized, victimized, and as we said, spite, right? Because they don't like this particular individual or they're not getting along with the individual. And so we have this book to guide us and keep us in line, so that you don't pick and choose, and you pick on this one, you let this one get away with it. Because, King, let me tell you something. Right. And sometimes I have the occasion to talk to individuals because of reports that come to me, and they are cited for infractions. And they outline 3 and 4 other people who are doing the same thing. But because they are the friend of X, they don't get the same type of report and stuff coming down to me. But so, Mr. Barrett, let me tell you. And then they start to give me dates. And let me tell you, we are now in the age where people are taking and keeping their notes. And so when I finish a meeting like that, and I reach out to the permanent secretary and say, well, you have a problem. You need to go and think, because yes, I am dealing with this one, but I am hearing that, right? And I'm not seeing the report from about the others. And so what I'm saying, the policy is here to keep individuals, give them that due process, have checks and balances, that persons do not abuse their authority and what they could do with others. And so again, I am not really going to side with you and say that there is enough. But King, what I would like to say, and that is why I'm doing my training with my colleagues, with department secretaries, because once you know this, let me tell you, I have a way of dealing with cases. Once I am going to make a decision, in the letter, I actually quote the SRNOs. I don't paraphrase, I don't put my own spin and meaning on it. I'm saying that this decision is based on X, Y, and Z, and I type it out and I give you the number 10 of 2014, section 29, and I give you the, so that when you get the letter, it is not just coming from Mr. Barrett, but it is supported by what is written in the SRNOs.
I hear you, and we'll have a debate after this program is over. I'm not going to push it no further.
All right.
No, let me ask you this. When you employees, because you spoke of the lack of enforcement earlier, when new employees enter the government system, they are given some form of orientation and some training as well.
Indeed.
But does that include how to deal with lateness, sick calls without the doctors know, disrespect, etc.?
Yeah. Can you have a crystal ball? Because tomorrow is actually our first orientation session for this year, and we are going to be looking at new employees that come into the system. We're going to have that at 9 o'clock over at the Nevis Disaster Management Department, Mrs. Gill and her training team along with myself, and we are going to have other individuals from like the private sector and from IT and stuff talking to these individuals. Now, you asked the question if they would get information on sick days and lateness and all of these things. Absolutely, because I am covering those areas, right? I'm looking primarily, because we can't do everything in one session. Primarily I'm looking at hours of work, misconduct. I'm also looking at absence without absence and without permission, that will come in as well. And as I said, types of leave. Types of we touched on a little bit earlier, types of leave. And because I think coming into the system new, I think these are the areas that would be more pertinent at this time. And as you continue working, you will get a little bit more information on the other things. But hours of work, we have a problem with lateness. Right? So I think they need to know that. We have a problem with leave. People just get up and go along and no call and say nothing. Right? We want persons to understand that, listen, common courtesy, and you are allowed some things, but you can't just up and don't say, because there are consequences, right? Types of, we mentioned types of leave and misconduct, because sometimes can you hear that the people got cussing and fighting and all of these things, and talking back to your superiors in a disrespectful manner and things. So those are the areas that I will be covering tomorrow.
Now, you see, I asked the question because most of the time it is the junior officers who are guilty of these offenses. That's why I asked the question.
Okay. Yes. Got you.
Now, increments and promotions are supposed to be based on good performance, which includes punctuality, production, respect for authority, and those, unfortunately, are the areas we are seeing repeated occurrences of the same. So it must be rather difficult sometimes, I'll tell you the truth, to recommend some employees for increments and promotions of any kind. But what do you recommend be done in such cases when you have especially junior employees doing these kind of things? What do you suggest?
It's again
be done, if other than just talking to them, because of course you will talk with them and try to get them in the straight and narrow.
Yes, and that should be the first course of action. You try to talk to them and get them up to speed with what should be happening. Increments are not, and I would stress that, increments first and foremost are not automatic. And over the years, there are some workers who have come to the notion or to the thinking that once I would have worked for an entire year, or once I would have worked up to my appointment date, I should be given an increment. It does not work like that. Increments are based on your performance,
Right.
and if you have not been working and performing, and the head of your department and your permanent secretary or your director do not approve that increment, you're not going to get the increment. But I would like to add this: if a worker, and this is backed by the SRNOs as well, if a worker is not working up to snuff, right? If they are not producing, if they are not doing what they are supposed to do, and you know that, listen, this person probably will not get an increment on the increment date, the supervisor, director, permanent secretary, or whoever is going to be handling that document should not wait, King, until the night before or the day before to tell the worker that, listen, I can't sign your increment paper. That is not supported by the SRNOs. If you are doing continuous appraisal or looking at the officer, you are supposed to, at least a month before the incremental date, tell the officer, listen, you need to improve, man. You need to do what you're supposed to do. I can't, your increment is due soon, but I cannot in good conscience sign off on it, and you're doing this. But you can't wait, or you shouldn't, let me put it like that, you shouldn't wait until the worker have not seen it in their pay. And when they come ask you a question, you tell them, boy, you know, see, you know, me not do nothing. That is not proper.
Right.
You should, as the supervisor, head of department, or PS, seen that a few months ago, and tell the officer that, listen, I am looking at you and you need some improvement. But yes, so increments are not automatic, and they're performance based. But over the years, as I said, individuals think that once I finish working a full year or up to my appointment date, I should get an increment. A person's come to me, King, and say that they have not gotten an increment. I said, but listen, but I have not seen any approval from your department.
Yes.
So I can't give you an increment. And the increment, I try to emphasize to them, it's not automatic. So if your supervisor didn't approve that document, I can't do it.
True. Now, let me ask you another question. And we're fast running out of time. I had a million questions.
Yeah, it happened, but we tried. But
let me ask you this: termination of a government employee, especially a civil servant, has proven to be quite difficult over the years. But in the private sector, there are certain asterisks in place when it comes to certain things and certain behaviors. For example, drinking on the job, stealing, fighting, etc. Is there any asterisk or anything that can cause a person to be fired automatically from the public service without the PSC having to be involved in that decision?
The short answer, no. Right? But as I said, due process. So some of what you said there would fall under what we call misconduct of a serious nature that could have the officer interdicted right there. For example, when I say interdicted, meaning all of his duties are pulled away from him or her, and say, listen, we can't allow you to do any more. Added to that, there could be a suspension, right? But in order to protect the government, in order to protect even the worker, there must be some due process. So what we don't want is for heads of department, permanent secretaries, to be judge, jury, and executioner. So there must be proper investigation into the infraction. yes, they could end up being terminated, but it is not as if
automatic.
It's not automatic. However, they could be put on suspension once the information comes in, and you get all of the proper documentation, and the recommendation goes to the Public Service Commission, and there's an investigation. Just like in normal society, when you have an individual who have been charged or suspected of particular things that run against the law, there is an investigation, and there is due process, and the person who is suspected or charged, they too have rights, and so they would also get a chance to defend themselves and all of these things. It's the same thing with a government worker. But once you fall into that category of a misconduct of a serious nature, then you could end up being terminated. I have seen it. But as I said, government is not in the business of publicizing all of these things, and so, because sometimes somebody get terminated, but you will probably see them end up working in the private sector and things. Oh, maybe they just changed the job, but they were terminated. Yeah.
Now, what are the steps that must be taken before one can be terminated?
Yeah. That is. If I begin, I will try to make it succinct. Yes. If I begin, King, we are going to run out of time. Okay, right. So, as I said, just like in public life, once an officer has been charged, charged with an offense of a serious misconduct of a serious nature. The information comes to HR. PSC has to be informed. If there's going to be an investigation, then you have to get a body of individuals. I think three, about at least 3 individuals, and they must be of a higher rank than the individual that has been charged. Right? They have to take their time, just like in everything else, and to do the investigation and get all the evidence and get background information and all of these things, which may take some time. All right. During that time, though, the recommendation could be sent to Public Service Commission to have the person either interdicted or suspended while the investigation continues. Even while you're on suspension, though, you be on suspension with half pay, because you are not guilty during that time yet, so they can just take away all of your salary, but you'll be on half pay. So that body will do the investigation, and during that time as well, if you are going to bring the charges against the individual, whatever evidence that you would have gathered, you have to share it with the person as well.
Yes.
Right? And they too, will lawyer up, as we would say. And just like, as I said, in normal society, there would be some quote unquote a trial, and if the person found guilty, then they could be terminated, depending on what the evidence said. But then that body will have to send that recommendation to Public Service Commission, do the report as to what was found. All of that information too would have to be forwarded to the individual and all of that. And it could be a lengthy process. It could be a lengthy process. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Barrett, I want to go more into discussion with you on those matters, but we're running out of time, and I really don't want you to go.
Bring me back.
I really don't want you to go without going into some athletics with you.
Oh my goodness! I can't get away from that. I can't get away from that.
We are moving into the athletics season as we speak.
Yes, I can't get away from that.
I know that you're an ardent supporter of track and field,
absolutely.
Schools, so I couldn't let you leave without speaking to you a little bit about this year's athletics season. You and I normally sit at the Mundo track during the primary school sports meet, especially. Not only to support the children, but to get an idea as to which school looks like it's going to be the one to beat at the Inter-Primary Schools Athletic Championship.
Which one do you think? Which one?
That's the question for you. Some of the schools have been having relay events as a warm up to this year's meet. Have you formed any impression yet? That,
early days yet. Early days yet, and I'll tell you why. Because King, you know that I'm involved in this thing. You know when you're going to see how you could gauge what's happening. Don't go to the sports. Well, don't gauge from the sports days. When you put that team together, right, and you start to look at training and how the children are training, then you could start to gauge. But let me tell you why. Normally, for the sports day, it is the housemaster and some teachers who prepare the children.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't know.
They're not fully tuned yet.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about the children so much. I'm talking about even the teachers who are not really coaches.
That is true.
So it's just to run a race and see, okay, this one look faster. Let me choose you to run the 100 meters. When you put them in the coach's hand now,
right,
and the coaches start to let them go to their rounds, and you see how they start to, develop and who is going to peak when. I used to have a difficulty at Charlestown. The difficulty was sometimes the person who came second on sports day, through the training, start to beat the one who come first.
Yes.
And then when you make a selection for your team, and you put in the person who came first or third, parents start to make nice, people start to make nice out of this one. But it's when you start to do the training and you realize, but listen, the one there on peak for sports day. So that's the one that we want. And so I go for the fun for the sports days. One of the things I never used to do so I never used to go to anybody's sports day.
You don't want it to upset your thinking.
No, not even upset my thinking. No, because once somebody see me there, you come to spy.
Which is true most of the time.
No, I don't spy. King, listen, when I was at Charlestown, I didn't believe I could lose it.
Exactly.
So, this is spying? No.
No, the federal meets, we had the federal meets here last year.
Yeah, and to good success. Yeah.
Yes, and chances are, it seems to be up in the air at this point, but it seems like the games may be going back to St. Kitts. I was listening to a program this afternoon where they're saying the stadium may not be ready for.
The seating area. The seating. I think they're saying the seating area may not be ready. I think the track. I think they say we're doing some work on the track. The track might be ready, but not the seating area. Well, I'm not sure about it.
My question to you was: have you heard anything regarding whether it's going to be here or there? Or?
No. What I heard is that they were really trying to get the Kim Collins Stadium refurbished, and so they are really eyeing that for the for this. Excuse me, for this year. But whatever happens, we are ready. If he's going to come back here, I think that we are going to be able to host it again. But yeah, I haven't really heard anything.
Okay. And we keep. I need to put this to you really. See if you could shed any light on this, because we keep losing the nationals to Sandy Point High due to the fact that our efforts at the field events are just not good enough. Are you seeing or hearing of any efforts being made to improve in that particular area?
Yes. And if you look at last year's sports day, that there was somewhat of an improvement in the field events, because the Ministry of Education and Sports, they invested in what you call the bed for the jumping bed for the high jump. They have been doing some hurdles. And let me say thanks to Carl Claxton. Carl Claxton would have donated and brought some world-class hurdles to the Ministry of Education and Sports. And they have been using those to do practice and all of that. They have the sand pits over at the track. They have been trying the long jump, the javelin, and some of the primary schools are also starting to do some of the field events. So I could see a turnaround coming. Yes, we lost over the years because we suffered in that area, but I see some interest coming with the resources that are being put in place.
Do we have any specific coaches for the field events, or just the general athletic coach?
Yes, well, we need that. We don't have particular coaches for the field events, but we have persons who kind of know what we say, a little thing, but not specific coaches. Yeah,
but I hope we could do that. And finally, Mr. Barrett, the Nevis Athletic Association. I know you're not with education anymore, but you very much.
Every time I come, can you ask me about that?
Because I see the need for it. Because we are moving forward in the field of athletics, track and field. And so we need to seriously look at that association. I'll bring it up with Jamie. I'm supposed to have him here shortly. I'll bring that up as well.
But King, you know, I thought we were, I think 3 years back. I thought we were very close.
We were, because they actually had the meeting at the Long Point and everything. A group of people turned up, and an association was a few people were put in place.
I don't know what happened, but that needs to come in line. With our facility and
where we're heading, we need to get it. Anyway, you and I shall speak some more about that.
Yes.
Folks, we've come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. And Mr. Barrett, I want to give you the final. I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening and for sharing some very important information regarding the Human Resource Department and how it operates. I think I myself would have learned a lot, and I'm sure our listening and viewing audience would have learned a lot as well. I want to give you the final words to close out this evening's program.
Well, King, I want to thank you for having me once again. It's always a delight. I like sitting down with you.
Yeah, keep running out of time.
Yes, but I think what we shared this evening, what we shared, I think was good information. As you said, you would have learned some things. I'm hoping that the listening and viewing audience eventually would learn something as well. I put myself in a position, or I welcome individuals to ask me questions. I have asked various departments and ministries and schools if there are things that they would like to know more about the SRNOs, that they could invite me and I could have little sessions with them. And you gave me an opportunity tonight, King. As I said, I hope that what I shared, individuals would be a little bit more informed and in some of the things that we do. We try our best. And once again, I think I know I have a very good staff, very helpful staff. So anytime you need any assistance from the Ministry of Human Resources, please come by, please call. We'll do our best to assist you. We want to help. We want to make sure that you understand and assistance is given to you wherever we could. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, King. Invite me again.
I will, of course. Folks, you've come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. Join us again next week when we shall do it all over again. Do enjoy the rest of the evening's programming. Then have a pleasant night's rest. Good night.